G'day traders, welcome to wrap up of Monday the 7th of May. So on the daily chart here is the Monday candle that we're looking at. So interesting thing about this candle was, Friday we pushed down and then over the weekend we gapped down as well, and it just all of a sudden rushed down to this support area and even broke and got a bit lower in the pre-market. What had happened earlier is we had broken this support back here, and I thought there was a period here where we were going to push down. I thought it might take a few days to get down to this area here, but we got down there really quickly. So we had the situation where we opened up the market, the cash markets on the Monday, and we got all this seller momentum, but then they seemed to be as the European market was opening, getting a bit of a bounce, from this support area. I guess at this stage they were just afraid to break it lower past this area here, and getting a bit of a bounce from the buyers. So it was one of those days where having a daily interpretation, I noticed from the trading room there was quite a few mixed analysis going through there. I was more on the downside because these sellers were just so strong, it gapped down so strongly even though we got a bounce in the pre-market, whereas I know some other traders were seeing this as a strong support area and expecting a bounce, which is what happened. So I mean, neither opinion's wrong. It's just at the end of the day, sometimes there can be different types of opinions. So leading into this cash market here, I guess it could have interpreted it a few different ways. For me, I guess the 1 minute chart shows it better here. See how we're kind of bounced, quite well here between 4 or 5 power points, and I was waiting for some consolidation or I guess some momentum in one way or the other. But like I said, more tempted by the sellers and looking for it to push down and get momentum one way. The other side of it is taking, and I know some people took this first power point here, so when you look at it, this pre-market, basically we got this bounce from the European market and all of a sudden this really strong push up. So if you believe these buyers are going to kind of hang around, here's a good spot to get on and try and get a couple of points, which in the end worked. Just got up there and then kind of bounced, and then there's some down momentum here. In saying that, once we saw this area breaking down here, this was sort of a breakout area where the sellers look like they're really starting to take control and get back in line with the daily. So I thought this area here, potentially the market would go on with it. But you can see they basically bounced off where the market opened and started to head back up. And from here, this power fade, quite a risky one. You can see it probably would have worked. But an area where potentially I think the market would either break up or again break down. I was looking for actually the market to bounce and maybe even push down from there. And if you go back to the 5 minute chart, here's a 5 minute buy, which would have in the end got to break even. I think it just got up about 8 ticks. But again, my view was this one could have gone either way. If you saw this as a good buy, all the other markets were holding the upside, so yep, there's plenty of reasons to take it. But there's also plenty of reasons not to take it as well. I saw it as this sideways period here. All of a sudden, these sellers busting down and getting some momentum on the downside and really wanting to get back in line with what they've done over the last few days. Then as it started to bounce up here, I just couldn't see it. The sellers kind of letting the buyers back in and all of a sudden them going back up and making new cash market highs, which is what it needed to do if we're going to get the points out of this trade here. In the end, it didn't really push up much. It come back, but then launched itself on the upside again, and proved that the buyers were actually quite strong on that support area on the dailies. Held quite strong and gave quite a bit of power to the buyers. Something interesting about this particular day as well, we spoke about it live in the trading room, is that there was basically two breakout areas. This candle here, even though it's very extended, we started the breakdown here, and then this candle here kind of a break up to the upside. What happened with this area, and I guess all the other areas, and happened later on too, which I'll walk you through in a sec, the ES was actually leading the markets, meaning when it was breaking down here, the other markets took a little while to follow. So the ES was the first to do it here, it was definitely the first to do it here, and that's a rare occurrence. Normally you'll see the smaller markets, being smaller, they can tend to move a little bit more easier and quicker. See something like the Russell and the Nasdaq lead these markets, and then when you see the other markets leading like that, it gives you a little bit of time then to get on the ES and look at these areas before they become too extended. But this is just one of those rare days that the ES led it, and so it's a little bit harder to get on. The way I would approach it is, and what I try to do with this area here, is once it started to break, because the other markets were lagging, it was hard to get on the breakout as soon as it happened. But we got a little bit of a bounce here, so what we're looking for is come a little bit back into this support area here, or this bottom of this range area here, and then get on. And actually 62 was an area that I looked at trying to get on myself, but it didn't quite get the fill there. But that's the way. The reason I say that is there's two different ways to approach it. When the other markets are leading, it's quite easy just to all of a sudden get on and get on this breakout early. Whereas when the ES is leading, it's kind of going to happen before you're aware of it. So we look for some sort of quick pullback or retracement, then get on and get a continuation. So it happened there. Didn't happen so much with this area, but from there the buyers pushed up higher. So this is basically the first pullback of a new trend. Here's the second pullback of the new trend, so another 5-minute buy here. Came up quite a bizarre area because we got a bit of a spike up here, then came down. We actually got a 5-minute signal, but it works, but not the best setup just because of the way it kind of happened by default almost. So basically another push up here. So this market's getting very extended again. With this seeing over the last few days, there's a lot of sellers around. Even though we're getting a bit of a bounce here, I was kind of just waiting for these sellers to come in and expected them at some stage to have a bit of a go, and that's what happened from about 2 o'clock onwards. And I didn't. Again, this is the area I was talking about where the ES led again. So what I normally look for is a bit of a directional trade where all of a sudden you see some of the other markets really starting to push down, and then you see this market push down, form a shoulder, then confirmation and go again, and normally it will start to rush down, especially if you've got other markets confirming it. But like I said earlier, the ES was leading these markets, up and down, all day long, and the other markets weren't, breaking ahead or getting ahead of the ES like they normally do. So it was hard again to see this area coming. So normally when you see this sort of thing, we form a bit of a shoulder and then down it goes. You'll see the Russell's already broken down around here or something like that, and it's quite easy to get on it back up here. But this type of one, you hesitate a little bit just because this market's leading, and it's hard to take action when you're on the leading markets, so to speak. You want to see other markets leading first to give you a little bit more guarantee that the area is going to work. But in saying that, I saw some value around here, depending on where you possibly enter, as to whether the trade would work. You can see the overall area has worked very well. It's pushed down 3.5 points. But always look for an entry somewhere within the swing low, a tick or two within the swing low. So depending on that entry, as long as the entry was 67.50 or above, it would have been able to absorb just a little bit of pullback before pushing down. But the overall area, not bad, because there's certainly some seller pressure coming. Other days it'd be easy to take when, like I said, the Russell and things like that lead, and you see them really pushing down. On 1 minute chart, so here's again going just through this. So here's this sideways area. This first bounce, certainly had some reason to take that first bounce, but then you can see it went quite sideways. Rushed down through this power fade here, potentially an area where the markets could go on with it, because all of a sudden they're looking to break lower. They held and pushed up. So I think this was a real area of the day where it's kind of the buyers or the sellers needed to take control. So if the sellers were going to come in early, this is where they would have bounced and pushed down from, which I could see coming, but in the end it didn't. My opinion wasn't quite right there, and the buyers actually, this is where they took control, and by this they pushed higher, and I guess this was that's where they gained belief that they could take this market high. And from there we had a bit of a sideways period through lunch here, but then you can see just some consistently pushing up and hitting upper power points till eventually we got this bit of a sideways movement in the last couple of hours of the day. So overall, an interesting day. Certainly a day where you can learn a lot from. A little bit different because of the fact that the ES has led. I'm not sure if anyone really noticed that. Take note of it. It's something that happens rarely, but it does happen. And if it is happening, you just got to be aware of it from the beginning of the day. And it was the case. The ES did lead from the start to finish, but very very rare, which is good because it's a lot easier to trade these markets when the other markets are leading, and then we can get a little bit of confidence in taking our trades because we got the backup or confirmation of other indices. Alright guys, that's a wrap up for the Monday, and I'll talk to you guys Tuesday.